Hey everyone, it's been over 2 minutes and I haven't been raped yet, despite being out in a public park with John the other, and you can be damn sure that he didn't stop it. Stop playing break free from your chains, to break free from your cage. What we don't want to do is go back to a traditionalist world. Hi, I'm Diana Davison. I want to talk today about a clip from a video. I'll link it below. It's a video by Razorblade Candy 2, and it's a really long video, about 3 hours long. There's a really small clip that comes near the end. It's about 4 minutes long, and I want you to watch it, and then I'll talk about why I thought it was important. There's a lot of gold in Razorblade Candy's videos that I think gets missed because of the length of them. So anyways, this is what I want to talk about this week.
This is not a movement whose goal is to cut taxes. The men's rights movement is not here to fight the Democrats or leftism. We're not here to end statism and promote anarchy. We're not here to fight homosexuals. We're not here to make gays feel accepted. We're not here to end tariffs. We're not here to get revenge on the popular kids. We're not here to fight white supremacy or black supremacy. We're not here to fight the Jews or the Illuminati, although it is heartbreaking that 6 million Illuminati died in the Holocaust. We're not here to make women more feminine. We're not here to turn males into real men. We're not here to return us to traditional gender roles. We're not here to get women out of the workforce. We're not here to protect the sanctity of women staying home raising children. We're not here to end Obamacare. We're not here to fight misogyny. We're not here to promote marriage as a sacred institution. We're not here to fight feminism for any of the reasons I just mentioned. The movement is not here to fight. And just because I say that is not what the MRM's goal is, doesn't mean I actually support those things, only that it is not the goal of the MRM. The men's rights movement is a movement whose goal is to obtain equal rights and treatment for males. And if you'd like to fight feminism, it better be for exactly that reason and not for any of the things this movement is not about. It has to be geared towards men's well-being, men's rights. And when I say men's well-being, I do not want to hear, well, I am only here to fight feminism because feminism is socialism and socialism equals taxes and higher taxes is bad for men, so fighting feminism lowers taxes which is good for men. No, god damn it, that is not what I mean. And yes, I've actually heard this argument. That's why I am tossing it out there. I shorten all this, and summarize it to, the movement has to care about men, not taxes and gender norms and Obamacare and socialism and statism and leftism and Zionism. It has to care, be concerned with, focused on, helping men. And when I say helping men, I do not mean by proxy of fighting statism, leftism, socialism, Obamacare and taxes and fluctuating the price of tea in China. I mean balancing the power between the male sex and the female sex. So I say, care about men. And because you are a biological determinist, you're going to say that the reason men in the MRM aren't focusing on men's rights is because men can't unite because blah 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 biology. Well, I offer an alternative theory. Men and women are both, at least in America, drafted into a civil war, a bit of a holy war, between the Republicans and the Democrats. It's like the Catholics versus the Protestants. So we are so caught in this political holy war, it shapes our perception of self, it becomes our identity. It shapes the lenses in which we see the world, it hands us our values, and gives us the superiority of being a know-it-all. It can even give us a moral ground to work with. We are the good guys, and the people over there are the bad guys. All evil comes from them, only we are right, only we are good. This civil war is very deep in our hearts. All of the false and stupid reasons people in the MRM are fighting feminism, has to do with feminism is left-wing and MRM is thus right-wing. All this Stradcon shit is conservative that is right-wing. The talking points that have nothing to do men are always this or that right-wing issue. If you tell them to quit going on and on about this right-wing issue, they call you leftist. Whether you turn on the TV, the radio, or pick up a newspaper, you are saturated, downright programmed with left-wing and right-wing political ideology. Eventually you choose whatever floats your boat, left or right, and then you tune into those radio stations, read those newspapers, watch those television programs, to have your political choice reinforced over and over, telling you what to think about, and how to feel about them, and reminding you that you are so smart, unlike those stupid idiots on the other side of the political spectrum. This shit is so deeply ingrained into people, and I am going to guess it's like this in Canada, Australia, UK, because I became slightly familiar with Norwegian politics, and it looked like that too, maybe not as bad, but I seen it too. It would seem that Western culture has been Americanized, and we're all caught in the post-French Revolution debate of right versus left. So caught up in this, it's our sense of self, the world, reality, right and wrong, women's issues, and minorities' issues are fundamentally a left-wing issue. White people's issues and men's issues aren't officially a right-wing issue, so their only defense comes by proxy of a fucking economic argument.
All right, so the first part looks at keeping the focus on the goals of the men's rights movement. And how do movements get started? I'm going to play a clip that's fairly well known, and most of you probably seen it. And I'm going to play it with a commentary by Derek Sivers, which talks about leaders and followers and how movements grow from that perspective. And you'll notice that the people, the followers who join into this movement, are doing the same thing as the original person. If in this case, this guy's dancing. If somebody came and they started singing, or somebody else came and set up an easel and started painting, they're all similar activities, but the movement wouldn't have started. The reason that it builds is because they're all doing the same thing, right? They may be dancing in slightly different ways, but they're doing the same activity. And anyway, so here's the clip. Enjoy it.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Now, generally, people don't like to be thought of as followers. That's why the study of followership hasn't really, been as popular, as widespread as the study and promotion of leadership. But followers obviously must exist for leaders to exist, and they have a symbiotic relationship. In fact, the best leaders are also the best followers, and we all play those roles at various times in our lives, and sometimes even within the same day. And one of the things that you'll notice with the best followers is they are also leader types. Another thing you'll notice is that they're not afraid to speak out. They have courage, they have honesty, and that's what makes them so valuable. And that's also what prevents movements from becoming echo chambers, is when you surround yourself by other leaders. And I think in the case of MGTOW, you can actually see that all the leaders are also followers and they promote each other. on a really honest, upfront, equal basis. So followership is actually something not to be seen as a negative. It's actually a really good quality to bring to a group. Without it, we end up with toxic leaderships. And there's a really interesting book, which I'll also link below, that and the woman who wrote this book, she's done some really great work with followership. But it asks the question, why do we follow toxic leaders even when they've been exposed as toxic? And this is a problem with group psychology and with the dynamics behind groups, where even when it becomes obvious that the leader is toxic, they don't have good followers who can step up, or when those people do stick their neck out, it gets chopped off, and then nobody wants to follow the same fate. So there's a lot to be learned about looking at those types of problems with groups and with movements. So openness to criticism, that's one of the qualities to look for in good leaders. And without it, there's no communication. You get an echo chamber or a two-person conversation which goes, what do you think? Well, I pretty much agree with everything you said. And yes, I've actually heard that on a recent MGTOW video. What makes MGTOW great is that there is a lot of back and forth dialogue that goes on. There's a lot of questioning of various positions and open, honest criticism. I mean, sometimes people, come across a little bit harsh, but it's the ability to voice those questions and to have those discussions that I think gives strength to the MGTOW movement as an observer. Now, the second part of the razor blade candy clip talks about the holy war between the left and right. And this has been something I think everybody's seen, this constant, talking about the commies and the lefties and the conservatives and, all this other stuff. And it's the political battle that people have brought to the movement has been really problematic. And that it's a way of thinking. I mean, RBK says it, I think, better than I could summarize, and that's why I'm putting the clip in here. That it's the reason that people bring these bigger group dynamics in, I think, is because MGTOW is so new, and the purpose behind the function that a group plays in a person's life is actually, it has almost a religious purpose. It fulfills an important need, an anxiety relieving need to attach yourself to something bigger than yourself, which, I've talked about Ernest Becker before in terror management theory. And the explanations and the evidence that they're finding for this is quite illuminating. That a lot of our behaviors go down to our knowledge of our looming death and our wanting to attach to something that will survive our death. Now, this isn't just true of groups, political groups. It explains patriotism and things like that. But I think it's also true of personal relationships. In a personal relationship, and I couldn't find the clip, but there's this woman who was promoting marriage on a talk show, and she said, they're a witness to your life. And I think that's very true, that when you enter into a romantic relationship, that person is the intended purpose for them, despite whatever emotions you might want to put onto the reasons why you think you're in love with them. They start to fill a role, and this is why I think that there's a lot of mental illness, and I've done a video on that with relationships. But the person is given the role of witness to your life. So you invest time, and you put this expectation onto them, or this need onto them, that if you were to suddenly get hit by a bus tomorrow, they'll survive you and they will be the witness to your life. And what's required then is that they are a positive witness, that what they recall of you is going to be something that gives a positive memory that survives your death. And that's why people would stay in toxic relationships. It's not just following toxic leaders and the investment in that group and the need to have that group survive, but the relationships, people become blind to their current problem because of the bigger problem that they've invested time. If they break up this relationship, they have to start building a whole new witness from scratch. And so it becomes more of like a sunk cost kind of issue for them. Anyways, just something to think about. Now, Ernest Becker, in his books Denial of Death and Escape from Evil, they deal with power dynamics of leaders and followers and why people have this will to unfreedom. Why do people give up their freedom to the group and to authorities, and why are they willing to slave away every day and give up the fruits of their labor to the state and so on? What would cause a person to continue in this existence? And some societies have pretty extreme examples of the level of slavery people will tolerate and actually sometimes even feel grateful for. So what is it that causes this? How do people go about building legacies? And this can happen from anything from collecting stamps to starting a religion, right? The level of requirement is very individual to meet this need, and some people are satisfied with just having a person next to them who loves them. And you can see in the comments section of MGTOW videos how often traditionalists will come in and say, "You're gonna die alone." And to them, that's a serious concern. It's something that they think that everybody should have at the top of their mind when deciding whether or not to engage with women. That, if nothing else, at least you're not going to die alone. And that feeds into this fear-based, anxiety-connected immortality project, right? And it also incorporates in why people get obsessed with family trees and so on. And I know people are going to give a bunch of reasons why they're interested in it, but there you go. That's Ernest Becker's solution. Now, there was a really fun story in The Denial of Death where he talks about Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. And there were some letters that were published that revealed that Freud had fainted in public 2 times, right? It's not a thing that you imagine people doing. I mean, you hear about fainting couches, and it's supposed to be something that, women used to struggle with, mostly because of corsets. But so here's this man who's building a legacy and fairly well known. He's met with a lot of success, and yet he fainted in public twice. And on both occasions, he was in the company of Carl Jung, who was his prodigy. And it was in Freud's mind, Jung was going to carry on his work, and Jung was, in fact, younger than Freud and would survive his death. And they started to have disagreements about some core principles of Freud's philosophy, and Freud was not too keen on expanding his philosophy to try and meet on any level with Jung. He just wanted his legacy to carry on. And when he had these meetings with Jung and saw the questioning and the disagreement coming from his prodigy, it was too much for him and he fainted. Now, there are other factors that people might want to say, but, okay, there's some discussion about homoerotic, issues that Freud might have had towards Jung. And also, I believe that Freud was quite ill, so that might have contributed to a weakened physical condition. But it's generally agreed that the defection of his prodigy was enough to make this man faint. So instead of responding positively and trying to enhance his own understandings and expand his own knowledge base, what ended up happening was they had a split, and it was quite bitter. And, Jung was seen as a traitor trying to destroy Freud's legacy. It's unfortunate because it makes you wonder what he might have accomplished and how better his work might have become had he not responded to what I think was actually a pretty good follower. Now, that's an examination of this dynamic on an interpersonal level. You can expand that to look at the behavior of larger groups and the intensity to which people cling to those groups and define good and bad, us and them, in relation to their in-groups. And what Razorblade Candy is talking about here is how those groups have been carried into the MGTOW movement and the men's rights movement. And I would guess that the reason why it's been so hard to eliminate that is because the men's rights movement is new. It doesn't offer people that stability yet. It's, in fact, got a lot of theories going on and admits that they don't have the answers. They're just asking questions right now. So as such, people are going to drag in their more secure group-based dynamics or security blankets with them. And, most likely as MGTOW grows, they'll find it easier to keep that stuff out and keep it focused on what it's supposed to be. And I think it's a really good reminder in that video that the men's rights movement, for whatever you're doing in it, should be based on caring about the well-being of men and trying to improve the lives of men and encourage the self-awareness and self-realization that MGTOW is looking at. I mean, the men's rights movement has seen the most conflict with the right and left thing going on. But some of that is going to creep into any new group just because it doesn't offer people that stability. And, you know, for those who haven't yet heard me talk about it, terror management theory, I'll give a link to that below as well. And I think that that's a really interesting explanation for a lot of human behavior. There's other explanations out there. And, you know, some of them quite controversial and considered unfalsifiable. So now as far as criticism goes, from what I've seen, there's no untouchables in the MGTOW movement. Everybody gets criticized. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's bound to say at least one stupid thing or have some idea that's maybe not so hot. And it's kind of like a drunk story, you know? A group of people, everybody's got a drunk story. And, you know, it doesn't matter that they've got a drunk story on you because everybody's got one. Everybody does something stupid at some point or says something that's a little bit sketchy. It's not the end of the world when somebody says, I think you're wrong. Not even if they say,
I think it's a theory you concocted while freebasing crack, you fucking crackhead wackadoo.
So I hope that openness to criticism, welcoming criticism, and trying to surround yourself with other leaders and being good followers for each other is actually a really good thing for MGTOW to maintain. That's what I've seen going on, and I hope it continues. Now, for the rape joke of the week. I've always been told that it's not rape if you yell surprise. You can imagine my terror when I walked into my first surprise party.